Three Balkan capitals. Three very different stories. And in every case, the city that became capital was not simply the oldest, richest, or most famous one. It was the city that best solved a national problem at the exact moment a new state needed power to settle somewhere. Hey there. Welcome back to Cities in a Blink, where we uncover the stories behind the world's cities, one blink at a time. This is How Did That City Become the Capital? Our journey through the political hearts of nations. Today, we're heading into the Balkans to explore how Sofia, Bucharest, and Tirana became the capital cities of their nations. The Balkans are full of historic cities, ancient cities, fortified cities, trade cities, imperial cities. So when Bulgaria, Romania, and Albania needed political centers of their own, the answer was not always obvious. Because choosing their capital is never just about beauty or age. It is about location. It is about control. It is about rivalry. And most of all, it is about which city can turn a nation into a working state. Let's start with Sofia. Sofia had history on its side. It sat in a broad basin in western Bulgaria, surrounded by mountains and crossed by important routes for centuries. Empires had passed through it. Armies had fought over it. And long before modern Bulgaria existed, Sofia already mattered. But when Bulgaria emerged from Ottoman rule in the late 19th century, Sofia was not the only possible capital. Veliko Tarnovo had medieval prestige. Plovdiv was larger and more developed. If Bulgaria had chosen based only on old glory or urban importance, Sofia might not have won. But the new Bulgarian state needed something more practical. It needed a city that was strategically placed, a city that could connect regions, a city that could be shaped into a modern center of government. And in 1879, Sofia was chosen as the capital. That decision changed the city's future. Government institutions moved in. Political life concentrated there. And the capital began pulling the nation's energy toward itself. So, why Sofia? Because Bulgaria did not just need a historic city. It needed a workable one. And Sofia was the city that best fit the needs of a new state trying to stand on its own. Now let's move to Bucharest. Bucharest's rise was tied to one of the biggest turning points in Romanian history, union. For centuries, Wallachia and Moldavia had existed as separate principalities, each with its own political traditions and elite centers. Iossi was deeply important in Moldavia. Bucharest dominated Wallachia. So when the two principalities united in the 19th century, the question was not just how to build a country. It was also where to place its political heart. And that was not a small question. Because whichever city became capital would shape the identity of the new state. It would become the place where institutions gathered, where diplomacy flowed, and where national power took visible form. In 1862, Bucharest became the capital of the united Romanian state. Why Bucharest and not Iossi? Part of the answer was momentum. Bucharest was already the largest and most politically active city in Wallachia. It had growing administrative weight, growing economic influence, and growing visibility. It also sat closer to the lower Danube world and the broader political currents shaping southeastern Europe. But more than that, Bucharest became capital because the new Romanian state needed a center that could act immediately. It needed a city ready to govern. Iossi remained important, culturally, historically, profoundly important, but Bucharest had the scale, the political energy, and the administrative pull that made it the stronger seat of national power. So, why Bucharest? Because when Romania came together, Bucharest was the city best positioned to hold that union together and turn it into a functioning state. And then there is Tirana. Tirana may be the most surprising of the three. It was not Albania's oldest city. It was not its grandest historic center. It did not carry the same kind of deep medieval prestige that some other Balkan cities could claim. And yet Tirana became the capital. Why? Because Albania's challenge was different. When Albania emerged as an independent state in the early 20th century, it was fragile, divided, and still trying to define its political center. Regional loyalties were strong. State institutions were weak. And the country needed a capital that could serve as a practical middle ground. That mattered more than grandeur. Tirana sat in a relatively central position between north and south. It had grown as a trading town and regional crossroads. It was not overwhelmingly tied to one dominant historic power center in the way a rival city might have been. That made it useful. In 1920, at the Congress of Ljubljana, Tirana was selected as the seat of government, and its role as capital was later solidified. This was one of those moments when a capital was chosen less for what it had been, and more for what it could become. And once the choice was made, Tirana changed quickly. Government institutions expanded. Urban planning followed. The capital began shaping the nation, even as the nation was still shaping itself. So, why Tirana? Because Albania needed balance more than prestige. It needed a capital that was practical, central enough, and politically usable in a fragile new state. Tirana was not the most obvious choice at first glance. But it became the choice that worked. And that is what links all three of these capitals together. Sofia, Bucharest, and Tirana were not simply rewarded for being famous. They were chosen because, at key moments of national formation, they offered something more valuable: usefulness. Sofia gave Bulgaria a strategic center after liberation. Bucharest gave Romania a political heart after union. And Tirana gave Albania a workable capital for a delicate new beginning. That is one of the most interesting things about capital cities. They often look inevitable after the fact. But in real time, they are usually the result of intense uncertainty. Rivals exist. Alternatives matter. Other cities have stronger claims in one category or another. What makes a capital win is not perfection. It is fit. So, why Sofia, Bucharest, and Tirana? Because each city arrived at the right moment with the right kind of advantage. Not always the oldest advantage. Not always the grandest advantage. But the advantage that mattered most when a nation needed a center. And once power settled there, history became much harder to reverse. If you love discovering cities and the stories behind them, hit that subscribe button and join us for more adventures. Next up, we're exploring how new states chose Zagreb, Ljubljana, and Bratislava as their capital cities. Thanks for watching Cities in a Blink, where stories of cities come alive, one blink at a time.